Greetings, Dr. Wolfula here to present a very important special audio presentation that your ears cannot dare unlisten to. Does that make sense? Oh, it doesn't matter. Listen to this.
Welcome to someone's favorite movie. I'm coming to you from the Podcheck. Outside, beautiful. Well, not so beautiful tonight. It's dark and stormy. Bay City, Michigan. My name is Randy, and with me is the man they call Tomco. What's up, sir? How are you?
Oh, I have just got the biggest adrenaline rush after watching this movie, sir. I want to go out and hit the beach with a rocket launcher and blow up sex dolls and then blow them up again.
I dare say you would ride a nuclear bomb all the way down to the planet Earth and wave your hat the whole time doing it, too.
Hell yeah, yeehaw.
Yeehaw, MFers, because I've decided we're PG now. That's why I said
Oh,
that.
no.
Hell no, indeed.
Boy, did you pick the wrong movie to talk about then.
Yeah, you got to censor yourself, Tomco. God damn it.
Oh,
JK,
shit.
you don't have to. Today we're covering a movie that's well known in the cult movie aficionado circles. It's Hard Ticket to Hawaii. We're going to get to that pretty soon. But first, we have a section. We have a segment of the show that we like to call, because I can't come up with anything better. So dear listener, if you have a better name for the segment, let us know. It's called What Have You Been Watching? Tomco, I turn it over to you, sir. Been watching anything interesting, cool?
It depends. It's more geeky than anything. I am an avid collector of unreleased music, whether it's demos, unreleased studio outtakes, concerts, anything of that nature.
I like that.
What's that?
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of, I'm a huge fan of covers. So
Okay.
pretty much any cover, live, whatever, doesn't matter the band. I find it interesting, and I don't know why, but that's my niche in the music field there.
Well, over the course of the years, I have amassed a pretty sizable collection of unreleased concerts, television specials, documentaries, press kit packages, things of that nature. And I'm to the point where I don't like physical media at all. I'd rather just be able to click the remote, find what I want on the menu, and then watch it, as opposed to having to go through all the rigmarole of actually, getting on my feet.
Yeah.
I want to be lazy.
Lord forbid you press open on a DVD player and put a disc in and then press close.
You gotta get the disc off the shelf, and it has to be put back just right because it's in alphabetical order, and
the horrors of society. Oh,
I'm just glad you understand where I'm coming from.
I find it interesting because you're old school in many ways, and you have fully embraced the streaming lifestyle, whereas I am like, I still want physical shit.
The thing is that I like the flexibility of being able to take my entire video library wherever I go. All
Sure.
I need is my phone and a patch cord to plug it into a television, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, you never know when you might have to regale folks at a party with tales of Never Too Young to Die. And you could just plug in that fucker.
You know what?
Let it go.
This movie is actually on my media server, and I already told my good friend Jake that when I see him next week, he and I are sitting down and watching this.
Perfect.
So, yeah, I'm all about the streaming. Anyways, what I've been doing is I've been converting a lot of my bootleg DVDs to a streamable format and have just been watching them en masse. I've watched the supposedly director's cut of the Beatles anthology documentary. I've watched a lot of Metallica concerts, a couple of Guns N' Roses concerts, the Rolling Stones documentary Cocksucker Blues.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yes.
I didn't know it was a documentary, though. I thought it was like a unreleased album or something.
Well, the story is that they wanted it out of their contract with Decca, but they owed them one more single. And so they wrote the filthiest song that they could think of, and it was called Cocksucker Blues. And they're like, okay, you can release that, or you can release us from our contract. Next thing you know, they're on another label.
Van Morrison famously did that, too.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the hook. He got in a fight with his record label and was on the hook for like 2 more albums. So he went ahead and released a double album full of just nonsense.
Yes. Wasn't he just like thinking up the lyrics off the top of his head?
Yeah, it's complete garbage. I mean, you can still find it. It still exists, but he's like, here you go. I love it.
Yeah. Neil Young, when he signed with Geffen Records, he decided that he wanted to do experimental music with a lot of synthesizers and overdubs and just not the thing that he was known for. And so finally, David Geffen sits down and is like, Neil, come on. We signed you to be you. You're one of the great rock artists of all time. Why can't you just give us a rock album?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, all right, next album, going to be straight ahead rock. Of course, it's done in the style of like Jerry Lee Lewis and Chuck Berry and, Carl Perkins, but hey, it's still a rock and roll record. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Let me out of my contract. God damn, rock and roll stars are assholes, aren't they?
Yeah, they can be. They can be pretty petty. I mean,
yes.
They call like female pop stars divas these days, but my God, the rock stars were the originals.
Nope. They don't have anything on Pete Townsend.
No, sir.
What about you, sir? What have you been watching?
Well, I just watched a movie on HBO Max. It's one of those deals that was released theatrically and also same day on HBO Max, which I'm not going to lie, I really kind of love.
You know what? I would be willing to pay $20 to buy a physical copy of it day and date at the theater.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. But I think they're like, well, we're going to do this, and then if you love it, you'll buy the Blu-ray anyways, and blah, blah, whatever. Who cares? So what I saw last night is Malignant, which was getting a lot of praise in the press that I saw. And so I kind of took notice. I didn't really know what it was about, other than it was a horror movie. Kind of a slasher. Very weird. It's directed by James Wan. And indeed, immediately within the first, I'll say half hour, 45 minutes, I'm like, this could have been a movie that was made in 1988 that we would be covering on this show here.
Is that good or bad?
Well, it depends on who you are and what you think, because there's a huge, humongous twist. The basic premise is there's a kind of a slasher villain out there on the loose with a disfigured face. This person has some ties to this woman whose husband was mysteriously killed, and she was attacked during the night. And this slasher was a part of some sort of, I guess, psychiatric ward at some point when he was a kid, and he's taking revenge on anybody that had anything to do with that place. Pretty standard.
Like you do.
Yeah, pretty standard stuff. But there's a twist, and I'm not ruining anything by saying there's a twist because it's been in all the reviews and whatnot. And with that twist, you're either like, oh, that's so cool, or oh, that's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen. And I dare say there's no in between.
Oh no, he Shyamalan'd us.
It's I'm still
James Wan Shyamalan.
Yeah, right. I'm still not sure how I feel about it. It's definitely weird. And it definitely fits in with my thesis that if it had came out in 1988, it wouldn't have been seen by anybody, and we would be talking about it on the show.
Okay, you have my interest, sir. I think I might have to sit down for that sometime this week.
It's very interesting. I will give one hint to the twist. Just watch the way the slasher moves when the slasher is killing people. That's my one hint.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as I can tell, people either think it's the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. I think it's probably somewhere in between, but I appreciate its balls for doing what it did and being a weird ass movie.
I was going to say, it sounds like it's a nice breath of fresh air in a market that's saturated with, as much as I love them, superhero movies, and as much as I hate them, remakes and reboots.
For sure. It is a big budget, high profile release that's weird AF. And I kind of dig that about it. It certainly works on that level. But I can't say much more without spoiling it. And you definitely deserve to see it unspoiled for the first time. So
All right. I will definitely check it out. I think the wife would want to see that one as well.
probably. It's got a weird kind of creepy tone to it that I enjoyed. But it is weird. It's definitely a B movie, I think, but it's marketed as a A-list movie, so there you go.
Wow, speaking of B movies.
I mean, we have an entry in the triple B movie category, bullets, bombs, and babes. Yes, sir, we're tackling Hard Ticket to Hawaii.
Now, I have to admit, this movie was on my radar for about 5 seconds.
Okay.
I think it may have been an episode of Jake and Tom where you were on, and we were talking about ridiculous movies, and Jake mentioned that he saw this clip of a lady having a fight with a snake.
Yep.
She shoots it in the head before, a guy rushes in and blows the head off with a bazooka. And he's like, I've got to see that movie. And I think we had mentioned it together that, yeah, that's got to go on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the years since, I completely forgot about this. So I walked into this movie not knowing what the hell it is. I didn't know if it was a comedy. I didn't know if it was taking itself seriously. I didn't know if it was just a clusterfuck like Cruel Jaws. I took it completely blind, and I had a very interesting time with it.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about that now that you phrased it that way. First, let's give a little background on the writer and director of this movie. Made by Andy Sidaris, who is known for his series of B movies between 1985 and 98, affectionately called Bullets, Bombs, and Boobs, or Bullets, Bombs, and Babes, and later called the Lethal Lady series, because the movies were known for featuring rotating cast of former Playboy Playmates and Penthouse Pets. I mean, why not? According to a 2014 blog that was written for Slate.com, Andy Sidaris was credited with inventing the honey shot. Have you heard of this?
I've heard the phrase, but I'm drawing a blank on what it is.
Well, believe it or not, Andy Sidaris had an accomplished career as a sports director before he started making these movies. He was the first director for The Wide World of Sports. He led ABC's coverage of the Olympics for 24 years and won an Emmy. He directed Monday Night Football. He helped develop sports techniques that every sports geek takes for granted today. He helped with the implementation of instant replay and split screens and slow motion replays, like stuff we take for granted.
So what you're saying is that he has some considerable technical prowess.
He does, and he was very good at what he did when it came to directing sports. Also, he perfected the art of the aforementioned honey shot. And I think this is the technique that he would use most often in his film work. A New York Times columnist, Neil Amder, wrote in 1983 in a piece critiquing college football coverage. He said Andy Sidaris is one of ABC's better football directors, but at the Sugar Bowl, he seemed preoccupied with cheerleaders. In a game that contained dimensions of much more importance, sideline shots of cheerleaders and majorettes are only worthwhile if they are spontaneous and fit into a larger picture. Sidaris made them boring and finally offensive.
Yeah, I could see that being leveled against this movie.
In an interview with Los Angeles Magazine, Sidaris said about his sports work, "Once you've seen one huddle, you've seen them all. So you either look at the popcorn, the guys, or the ladies. The choice is clear to me." So there it is. The honey shot is the art of finding attractive women in the crowds during sporting events or on the sidelines and focusing on them during breaks in the action.
Hey, you know what? It was a different world.
It was a different world.
I don't think that would fly today, and for good reason.
Probably not.
No.
Years ago, there was a high-profile football game, and Brent Musburger was doing the announcing. And
no! Don't tell me he said something on a hot mic.
He didn't even know. He said it flat out on the broadcast. Like he wasn't even trying to hide it. The quarterback was AJ McCarron, and his attractive girlfriend was in the stands, and they kept focusing on her. And Brent was like, "Wow, she is so beautiful. Wow." Like, not even trying to hide it.
And if you know Brent Musburger's history, you'll know why that's extra creepy.
Yeah, very weird, but I digress, I guess. I do feel like it really carried over to his work in the movies because he really liked having those playmates around.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. There are aspects of this movie that, from a technical standpoint, are between competent and downright interesting. So he knows what he's doing when it comes to camera setup and lighting and all of that stuff. It looks great. He's just not a storyteller.
No. I mean, there's things that work in this movie and things that don't. There's a lot of things that don't, quite honestly.
I would say more things in this movie don't work than do work. And even then, a significant portion of the things that do work, I think, came off successfully by accident.
Sure. I mean, for example, the dialogue in the movie, it sometimes bounces seamlessly from borderline clever and witty to what the F were you even thinking? And it kind of bounces back and forth in every scene. Like you get some gems such as, I wrote this down, if brains were bird shit, you'd have a clean cage. Somebody actually wrote that. Thought it would be a great idea.
I'm willing to bet that looked a lot better on the page than it sounded.
Yeah, probably so.
You know?
But at the same time, there is some fun stuff there in dialogue, and I don't know. The movie is about two women, one played by a former Miss March and one played by a former Miss July. So you've got several months all lined up there, who work for a company that delivers freight via helicopter. But it's all a ruse, you see, because one of the buxom starlets is an undercover DEA agent. And the other is in the witness protection program, and she's obsessed with James Bond and being a spy. And it's her lines that I really found clever. Like, I don't know. Her obsession with James Bond was charming, I thought.
I thought it was. Yeah, you know what? I will put that in the work column.
Yeah. On one run, while they're flying freight back and forth between the islands of Hawaii, they accidentally acquire some diamonds intended for the island drug lord. And
okay, but you're just skipping over
no, I'm getting there. And also, listen, shit happens when you're delivering packages, right? There happen to be, believe it or not, 2 crates at the same place marked live snake. And boy, did they pick the wrong one.
It happens.
It happens because they picked the one with a big giant snake that was filled with deadly toxins from cancer-infested rats. Yeah, do I have to repeat that sentence for it to fully sink in?
No, but I'm still trying to figure out why that's a big deal because cancer isn't contagious.
But the toxins from cancer.
Ah.
You ever see what it does to a snake? I have. I witnessed it in this movie. Oh.
But no, the thing that you're also there's a lot in this movie that you just kind of scratching your head and wondering what the fuck the point of it is. They also on their cargo trip bring over a newlywed couple.
Yeah, they're also tour guides for some reason.
Yes,
which
they're transporting deadly snakes and tourists. That's a interesting business model.
I know. I think that couple would have maybe wanted to take some selfies with that big fat cancer snake if they would have known it was in the
Only
back
they
seat.
knew, yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been great on the gram.
So many likes.
Mm. Now, and the other thing about this sequence that I have to put in the work column is that the scenery was shot beautifully with the foliage and the waterfalls, the skyline. I just thought it was a very well made sequence.
Yeah. I mean, when you have a place such as Hawaii, I dare say you better take full advantage of the scenery.
Mm-hmm.
The big fat cancer snake, by the way, looks dumb. It's a big rubber puppet.
Yes, I was going to say I've seen better puppet work from the Sesame Street workshop.
Yeah, I mean, get one of the Jim Henson people on this promptly, please.
Yes.
Now, what does accidentally grabbing diamonds from a drug lord and accidentally transporting a big giant death snake across the islands have to do with one another? Well, I don't know. You tell me.
And on top of that, what is the drug running operation that the two DEA agents stumbled across have to do with anything in the movie?
Well, stuff.
Absolutely nothing other than the fact that the bad guys' thugs were there.
Yeah, and that goes in the giant loss column. The plot makes no sense and it doesn't really work.
And it doesn't help that the two lead actresses
are
strikingly similar in appearance.
Right, yeah.
Where at least the first half of the movie was having a really hard time keeping track of who was who.
Yeah, they're two tan, blonde, former Playboy centerfolds. So, I mean, you tell them the difference. I can't.
No. But, I mean, there's just a certain charm to this movie as it goes on. And once I figured out what kind of movie this was, I had to go back, start from the beginning, and basically change my entire mindset and realize that it's just a campy Skinamax movie with a massive budget.
Yeah,
it's basically the Ben-Hur of Skinamax movies.
Oh, geez, put that on the poster. I agree, and I wish I had time to watch it again, but I didn't. But I kind of want to watch it again just because I know what I'm in for now.
Yes.
Because at first I couldn't get a handle on the tone whatsoever.
Mm-mm.
And then finally,
well, I mean, right from the opening scenes, you're seeing a buxom blonde rip off her towel, and you're having a sex scene.
Right.
God, what? 30 seconds into the movie?
Yep.
And then you're immediately having over the top violence and explosions. You're having the other main actress introduce her character by taking off her top, and it's just like, whoa. And then you got the snake thrown in there randomly. So yeah, it took me a while to get the pace of this movie down.
Yeah.
But once I figured out what was going on and I went back and rewatched it, oh my God, did I have so much fun.
Yeah. When things get too hot to handle for the girls, they get topless because that's what you do and soak in a hot tub. Because that's how you think the best. If you're a lady in the 80s and you're well endowed. It was a much more sexy time back then,
Oh, yes.
They decided the best thing to do is to call in the Stallion DEA agent. His name is Rowdy Abilene, who is a horrible shot. So he carries a bazooka with him because he never misses with that. And Rowdy is played by one Ron Moss. Do you know this man?
No, I do not.
Well,
I should, shouldn't I?
I don't know if you should, because he played like the lead in The Bold and the Beautiful soap opera as Ridge Forrester. And I only know this because when I was a wee lad, I used to be babysat by my aunt who was obsessed with the soap operas. And we would watch this all the time. We would watch Young and the Restless and then Bold and the Beautiful. So immediately I'm like, oh, I know that guy.
Huh.
Were you ever just...
Back in the early 80s, I remember my mother watching Days of Our Lives. Back when it had John Delancey on it, who went on to play Q on Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yeah, cool.
Yes, he was Joshua, a.k.a. the Salem Strangler.
Oh, that's funny because I saw Mr. Ron Moss here, and it brought me back to Bold and Beautiful. And then I remembered a long-running plot line on The Young and the Restless, which is like super trashy slasher fare, which would be kind of right because that was the era when slashers were okay, and I think they were trying to do that on The Young and the Restless. Mm-hmm. But I distinctly remember this, and I looked it up to make sure my mind wasn't playing tricks on me, and it does exist. There was this guy on the soap opera that was killing people, and he faked his own death by stealing a corpse from the morgue and setting his bed on fire. Then he went to a plastic surgeon, and he specifically asked for the plastic surgeon to make him look like David Hasselhoff because he committed all these murders and he was on the run. Instead, the plastic surgeon put him out and carved the word killer in his forehead. And he woke up and looked in the mirror, and it said killer on his forehead. And I remember thinking that was so punk rock back then.
So what you're saying is soap operas, they're basically just wrestling for women.
Absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Hmm.
The other thing you should know Ron Moss for is he was in the band called Player, who had a massive hit in the late 70s with the song Baby Come Back.
No shit.
Yeah, if you've ever been cursed with listening to whatever bland adult contemporary station that's playing in waiting rooms all across America, you've probably heard this tune once or twice. Baby, come back.
Great, and I'm going to have that song stuck in my head the rest of the week.
Yeah, you are. And he was in that band, so good for him. Plus, he had abs like a rock star, like a Greek god.
This guy. Rocking them cum gutters is what you're saying.
Oh, boy, I wouldn't say that, no.
You don't watch Rick and Morty, do you?
I do, I do, and I appreciate the Rick and Morty quite a bit. Yeah. I forgot to mention weeks ago in my review of Space Jam: A New Legacy that Rick and Morty show up too.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's disappointing.
They drop off the Tasmanian Devil because they have no idea what to do with it.
Smartest man in the universe, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep. Again, I digress. Back to Hard Ticket to Hawaii.
Yes.
It is this character of Rowdy that provides the most satisfying scenes in this movie.
Yeah, I think I would agree on that.
He provides the, oh my God, what did I just watch? Holy shit moments.
It's one of those things that you got to scan back and watch it at least 3 times to take it all in.
First, you gotta really think and wonder, why does this exist? Why did that just happen? Did what just happened really exist in my own brain? Wait, am I hallucinating?
I know.
Wait a minute. Is this real? How did this get made? It's one of those situations, for sure.
Yes. Rowdy and Jade, his partner, are driving down the road in their Jeep, and they see a guy going down a hill on a skateboard, but instead of the traditional position, he's doing a handstand where he's upside down on the skateboard. And they're saying, whoa, that dude must be smoking some major doobs. Well,
Yes.
as soon as they pass, the skateboard guy flips himself right side up and fires a shot at them, grazing Jade. Well, oh shit, no, I forgot to mention. He meets up with the other goon from the DEA scene where they were assassinating the agents.
Yeah.
Yes. He gets in the back of a car being driven by the larger of the two goons. And the reason why he's in the back of the car is because the passenger seat is being occupied by a blow-up sex doll.
Right.
They speed up and get in front of the Jeep, pull off to the side of the road. Goon number one says, "Go get him, Skates." Because apparently this goon's name is Skates. And there's another goon who wears big mirrored sunglasses, and his name is Shades. That's the kind of movie we're dealing with here, folks. Skates grabs a shotgun and he pulls the blow-up doll out of the car, and I'm still not sure why. What was the purpose of the blow-up doll? Can you explain that to me, Randall?
If I could, I would be a brilliant philosopher. Yet I can't. Maybe that was his partner in crime. Maybe that was his security
so it's
blanket.
kind of like Scarface and the ventriloquist.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, you know what? I will accept that.
Just be careful where he sticks that hand.
Exactly. So he's basically coming at them head on, almost like a jousting match, and then he shoots them. Just grazes them, and he made the mistake of pissing them off. They throw the Jeep in reverse, slam into him, launching him in the air when Rowdy goes to the back seat, grabs a rocket launcher, and literally blows him out of the sky, and immediately afterward blows the blow-up doll out of the sky as well. And it's a sight to behold. I mean, words do not do this scene justice.
I believe I said whilst watching it out loud to no one in particular, "That's awesome."
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, if 13-year-old me could have seen this movie, it would have been the greatest thing ever.
Oh, for sure. Well, yeah, definitely, because there's all the TNA, but there's also all the ridiculous violence and nonsense that happens. It's something to behold.
It's like a Skinamax movie that at first you think you're going to fast forward through, but then you find yourself watching it.
Yeah. I mean, later Rowdy comes across Shades and offers to have a sweet game of Frisbee with the lad on the beach. Well, he throws that Frisbee and they razor blades pop out. And boy, it cuts poor Shade's fingers right off and goes right into his neck. And I laughed pretty hard. I'm like, what is this?
It's pretty horrific, but it's just so ridiculous that you find yourself cracking up in spite of the gore, because it's really gory.
It's over the top gory. There's not a lot of gore in this movie, but this one scene, for whatever reason, they played it as far as they could go. And let's give credit where credit is due. The ridiculousness of that had been established years ago in Goldfinger with the villain Oddjob who threw his razor blade hat. So,
yeah, basically it was giving you the payoff that you never got from Sean Connery.
Yeah.
But I mean, shortly after that, I mean, we're skipping a whole lot of the quote unquote plot of this movie.
That's because the plot doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It doesn't make a lot of sense at all. No. But they're trying to rescue their kidnapped friend who ran a restaurant while she also helped out the DEA and inadvertently employed a bartender that turned out to be a spy in drag.
Yes.
They know that their friend is in the custody of Seth, the number 2 bad guy. And yes, I say number 2 because at this point, I'd completely forgotten about the old white English guy. Did you remember him at this point?
No, not at all. Because
Yeah.
the entire movie plays on the fact that the guy that got shot in the face is like the main big boss.
Yeah. The thing that I thought was really funny, they know that their friend is being kidnapped, but they don't really seem to be in too much of a hurry to get her out. They flat out say, "Oh, the best time for this will be in the morning," and then they literally go out and bone each other.
Well, priorities.
I'd like to think that if my friends knew I was kidnapped and I was in danger, and they had it in their power to, come and bail my ass out, I would hope that they could calm down on their rutting for just a little bit.
I would hope that two people that look as gorgeous as those two do would have better, less awkward sex than what was on the screen there. Because, boy, that was awful.
Yeah, the positioning was weird.
The positioning was... I've never seen anything like it.
I think he was trying to fuck her sternum.
Yeah.
And he was yelping for some reason.
He was yelping. I would like to hear the director's notes on that. Like, you need to yelp a little bit more here.
I mean, I'd say this in The Room are tied for the least sexy sex scenes.
Probably so.
It just felt like you were seeing animals at the zoo.
There was one thing that happened in this movie quite a bit that really irritated me, and it was the clear after the fact ADR work with the voiceovers and
yes.
Oh, it was just, I mean, every now and then it's fine, but it was like constant. It's like he didn't trust them to the two main leads. He didn't trust them to memorize their lines. So there's a lot of wide shots.
Is it that he didn't trust them to, or he couldn't trust them to?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
But, I mean, they go out in the first morning light to storm this castle, basically, that the drug dealing diamond smuggler has set himself up in. And they are worried that two of the main bad guys, the bearded henchman and the bodybuilding nunchuck twirling female hench person, were getting away in the helicopter. And of course, you know what's going to happen. They've got that rocket launcher there for a reason. Of course they use it. And I'm thinking, okay, is that the end? Because where do you go from there? You literally blew the bad guys away with the rocket launcher. Can you think of anything else that they had to do at this point, Randy?
Well, I mean, they had a big giant snake running around.
Well, literally, as they're driving away from their, burned down fortress, one of them says, "Hey, did anybody remember to kill Seth?"
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, and so they slam on the brakes, and immediately Rowdy bursts out of the hatchback of the van on a dirt bike going full hog. And I have to admit, I lost the plot at this point. How did Seth meet up with Donna?
I have no idea. I might have blacked out because I don't know.
I just know that she found herself in Taryn's house alone, because it had all of the movie posters from the director's past films.
Right. And this is the part where the snake comes up through the toilet, right?
Yes,
okay.
But not before it turns the movie into a slasher film.
Right.
Where they're just blatantly ripping off John Carpenter's work in Halloween.
Yeah.
And, instead of jabbing him in the eye when he gets through the closet door with a hanger, she shoots Seth with a harpoon gun. We think he's dead. Of course not. He comes back and they proceed to literally get into a knife fight, and he falls on the knife. Still not dead. She kind of goes into the bathroom to collect herself, calm herself down. She grabs some toilet paper to wipe her sweat away, throws it down the toilet, flushes it. Boom. Giant fucking snake. And this is one of those situations where I'm watching the movie And I'm so glad I was able to call it, even though in retrospect it was pretty fucking obvious.
You know, that was like an urban legend that I heard when I was a kid of snakes coming up through toilets. And I'm sure it happens in like Florida and places like that.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
But boy, that's terrifying to me. I have a problem with snakes, so.
But no, after that, in comes the bazooka shot to the snake. And I'm thinking, okay, now the movie's done. Seth's gone. The snake's dead. No, we forgot about Mr. Chang, the half Asian, half English white guy.
Yeah, I actually like that scene quite a bit.
They just stop off like they're running an errand, like they're making a deposit at the bank. It's that casual. They go up to the 5th floor to just baton the hell out of his bodyguard, and then he grabs a katana. And they have the line, "Oh, that's a stupid thing, bringing a knife to a gunfight." It's like, well, sometimes, yeah. I've seen Mythbusters where people can win a fight with a sword like that, so it's possible. But no, he doesn't. He's not skilled at all. He literally turns it upside down and throws the goddamn thing like a lawn dart. And of course, they blow him away, and you see just the worst fake-looking dummy just billowing down the pavement slowly.
I love the 80s because it was just constant dummies being tossed off huge drop-offs.
Yeah, I mean, once you get spoiled by Hans Gruber going off of the Nakatomi Tower, everything else kind of pales in comparison.
Yeah.
But this one didn't even try.
Honestly, at this point, when it got to this final scene, I was fully on board. I'm like, okay, this is fun. I enjoy this. In 2014, Pace Magazine called it the best B movie of all time. I don't know about that.
I don't know about that. I'd say it's at least in the conversation, like in the top 25.
I wish there was a lot more fun what the fuck moments in this movie.
You didn't think there were enough fun what the fuck moments in this movie?
Well, didn't have a lot of fun with the plot because it dragged on and I had no idea what was going on.
Honestly, the plot's a mess.
It is.
I mean, I kind of get the impression that the screenwriting process was the guy just sitting over his 5-year-old nephew, watching him play with his action figures, and then he transcribed it and then said, okay, that's the plot.
Honestly, I like a movie like Never Too Young to Die a lot better, which we covered in the archives. Go listen to it. Because it's got those what the fuck movies, but it also has a decent plot that you can follow. And it's fun and ridiculous too, but you're never
I will say that when I went back and started over from the beginning, it did make a lot more sense on rewatch.
Yeah, I guess that would be the case. Yeah, like I said, I want to watch it one more time just to see. I mean, I have his entire filmography. You can buy it off Amazon for like $7.50.
Oh,
all the Lethal Lady series on DVD.
I'm gonna piss my wife off.
Yeah, $7.50. It's a deal. You get Malibu Express, Hard Ticket to Hawaii, Picasso Trigger, which is a great name for a movie. I don't know what it's about. Savage Beach, Guns, Do or Die, Hard Hunted, Fit to Kill, Enemy Gold, Dallas Connection, Day of the Warrior, Return to Savage Beach. So,
hey, the guy was prolific.
Yeah,
good for him. He found a market that he could fit himself into and made a living off of it.
Yeah, I mean, he had a successful first act of his life, it sounds like, and in his second act, he was like, I'm going to surround myself with supermodels the whole time. Okay, good for you. It worked.
Well, it was kind of creepy that he cast himself as the television director that raped the actress. Kind of creepy.
A little bit creepy, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, shit. That was another thing that I wanted to comment about. The sports program that was another subplot of this movie. Taryn's boyfriend is a famous sports broadcaster, and
Yeah.
he and his lecherous, sports director are trying to cover the Pro Bowl.
I completely forgot about this, by the way.
And you talk about a WTF moment. They are interviewing them at this resort, and he was, the sportscaster was going super in depth as far as the intricacies of this play that they won the last Pro Bowl with. And the response from the athlete is stuff that I can't repeat. It just comes out of nowhere, and it's like, whoa.
I almost wonder, knowing what I know now, if that came from his life, his
I'm
former
wondering,
life as
yeah.
a director of sports, like if that was something he witnessed or heard, or a character he came across.
Yeah. But on the other hand, you could remove that entire plot and not miss a beat.
You should remove that entire plot. Because, like I said, I completely forgot about it. It doesn't.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of things in there that it's like, okay, why did you film this, let alone keep it in the final edit? It's like when Edie leaves work, for whatever reason, the camera just follows her and watches her as she changes clothes to the point where, again, it's not sexy, it's kind of creepy.
Right. By listening to us whine and moan, you would think that this movie was 2.5 hours long. It's not. It's an hour and a half.
I was going to say barely an hour and a half, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think they take their sweet-ass time with the closing credits just so that they could show some boobs again.
I mean,
they probably pad that out by about 10 minutes.
Right. So there's not a whole lot of movie there. However, there is a lot of extra that doesn't need to be there either, which is odd. So if you cut all that out, you'd have an hour movie.
And also, listening to me in particular just kind of tear this movie apart, you would think that I hated this movie. No. This was so much fun. This is probably the most fun I've had with one of these movies since Tammy and the T-Rex.
Really?
Yeah, the plot is atrocious. The acting and dialogue are amateur at best most of the times. It has just the worst special effects where they have obvious rigs where they're using a toy helicopter and they're setting it on fire type of situations.
Yeah.
But taken as a whole and taking it not too seriously, god damn, it's a lot of fun.
I mean, there's some sleazy sex and casual transphobia, and I mean, it's definitely a product of its time.
Well, there was the bartender, the maitre d', whoever it was at the restaurant, his entire purpose on screen was to sexually harass the women.
Yeah, at one point he says, "You go down on her, you're going to be kissing the back of my head because I'm already going to be there." Hey!
Exactly, yeah. And yeah, there are some problematic aspects of this movie that have not aged well in the past 30-odd years. There is a blatantly racist scene where they're mocking Asians. There is gratuitous nudity on a level that I don't know if that would be acceptable in this day and age, in the climate that we're in.
No, when do you see nudity in any movie anymore? Seriously, it's non-existent, really.
I'm sure it's still there, but gratuitous nudity, you don't really see that a whole lot.
I can't remember the last movie I saw filmed in the last 8 years that had any sort of nudity in it.
You just become numb to the boobies, sir.
Maybe so. I'm an old veteran of the boob game, so I just yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there are things in this movie that I could also point to, in that he's kind of an equal opportunity offender, because yeah, you do see a lot of flesh on the girls. Yeah, they are kind of written to not be the brightest people in the world, but on the other hand, they're also capable. They can take care of themselves. They can kick some ass. I think you got to give them credit for that. And if nothing else, the lead men in this movie are just probably dumber yet.
Right? The whole scene with Rowdy and Jade as they're offensively practicing karate on their boat. That made me laugh so hard with its stupidity.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I realized, no, that's actually two dude bros. They would actually talk like that and do that shit.
Oh, they absolutely do.
Yeah.
There's no hypothetical about it. I've seen it.
Right.
But I mean, this is a turn your movie off. You know, have a shot and a beer. You know, get yourself in a relaxed state, however you choose, and just have fun with it. It's a good time. It actually has me curious to check out his other movies.
Yeah, I am sure we'll tackle another one at some point.
Well, we got to cover, what is it, Malibu Express, because they name checked that that other movie several times in this one.
Yeah, the Taryn actually has a poster of Malibu Express hanging
The
on her
yacht
wall.
is named Malibu Express.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're going to be revisiting this guy at least at some point down the road.
Tell people where they can find you, Tomko.
I promise you are going to be able to find me on a shuttered, but things are stirring behind the scenes at a podcast called Jake and Tom Conquer the World. We are a show that's been described as the conversations that you hear from the other end of a bar from a couple of drunken dorks talking about everything from movies, music, video games, comic books, and the way that we would abuse time travel. If you want to reach out to me, I can be found on Twitter at The Drunken Dork or on Facebook at Jake and Tom Conquer the Group. Randy, what about you, sir?
About me, I have a question. Like, you have done Jake and Tom Conquer the World, and before that, the Drunken Dork podcast, probably for
Yes.
about, I don't know, 7 years?
Give or take.
How many episodes of Jake and Tom Conquer the World are there?
I want to say 200 and dang near.
Okay, that's fair. I was going to mock you for taking extended sabbaticals.
Hey, 2020 is still the year that just doesn't end, you know?
That's
Ugh.
true. We're coming on our 3-year anniversary of this nonsense. Can you believe it?
Wow.
I know.
Time flies.
Yeah. And we only have this is episode 46, so we're slacking on this too. Whatever. You can find me on another podcast where I slack real hard. It's called Miserable Retail Slave. It's a big dumb comedy show. We're staring down the barrel of episode 300 coming up, so
Damn.
I know that'll be a thing.
I am slacking.
Yeah. Again, we've been doing that for 9.5 years, so it should be well beyond that. But again, life, we don't make money. We do this out of love.
Exactly.
Unless you want to give us money, then send us a check. We implore in love when you people send us requests for movies to cover. You can do that at someone's favorite movie podcast at gmail.com. We've got a bunch of movies from the listeners we're going to cover coming up shortly. Next week, we're doing Cool as Ice.
Oh,
Yeah. And then Flight of the Navigator.
gonna be a good one.
And then it's going to be October, so we're probably doing Halloween-y stuff. What that is, I don't know. I have to confer with my colleague here.
I
But
have a feeling there might be a franchise involved.
probably,
Probably.
I would guess. Yeah. So all
All
that's
right.
coming up. If you have a big dumb movie fan in your life that loves B movies and cult classics, hey, send them our way. We'd love that.
All right. So until next time, I guess we will see you later.
Bye.
Bye.